What up, YouTube? Today we got a 2013 Hyundai Sonata starter replacement, 2.4 liter. Let's get started. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is go ahead and remove this air duct here. Just two 10mm bolts, and it should basically lift up and pull straight out. And of course we want to disconnect both sides of the battery because we're going to be removing it completely. That's just two 10mm there. And then I believe there's a 12mm bolt down there for the hold down that we'll have to get to, which will be much more accessible once this piece is removed. So we'll go ahead and get started. Now with those bolts loosened and removed, we can lift up and pull straight out on this, and we'll set it to the side. Now we can disconnect the negative battery cable and the positive battery cable, and now we can get at that 12mm. Now we're going to lift up the entire battery assembly. Well, hopefully your jacket will stay on. That's why I called it an assembly and not just a battery. Make sure you don't forget to put this bad boy back on, because it can be a hassle if you do. So anyways, now we have much better access to what's going on down here. Except I think in order to get maximum access, I'm probably going to go ahead and remove that 10 for the clamp, or loosen it rather, as well as this one here. And we're going to remove this air duct here, because I think that'll give us a bit more room. Alright, and we also need to remove this clamp and hose from this duct, and then it should come right off. And once you get that hose disconnected, you can move that duct over there while keeping the back hose intact. So now we're going to be going after this 14mm bolt right here, which is the top one. And then there is, actually no, I'm wrong, that one I just showed you is the bottom one, and then the top one, you can kind of see it between those two hoses. So that one's the top, and this one's the bottom. They're both 14. So we'll get down in there with a ratchet and we'll get those removed. For the bottom bolt, I'm using a long 1/2-inch drive ratchet and a shallow 14 socket to break that one loose. And for the top one, I'm using the exact same ratchet with a deep 14 socket, and we'll break that one loose as well. The next thing we need to do is remove the 4 bolts holding on the throttle body. There's one on each corner, so we'll go ahead and do that now. Alright, so we went ahead and removed those 4 bolts using this ratchet extension and 10mm socket. Then I also grabbed the connector, and you squeeze at the top and the bottom, and you should be able to slide it out. And then after that, you should be able to slide the throttle body over to the side. Now we're going to go after a bracket that should be down here, but it looks like this particular one is actually missing. Let me see here. Yeah, that's our starter right there, and there's supposed to be a bracket that's kind of covering it up, but in our case, maybe someone's removed this intake before, so we might be able to just go ahead and skip that part and go straight for the starter. Alright, so I was able to get down in there and wiggle the starter out of its hole, where it was right over here. I was able to wiggle it by hand and flip it around. And I got the electrical connector unplugged. Simply just push down on the tab and pull it out, just like the one on the throttle body. And then that kind of golden colored nut, I guess, with the rubber next to it is the next one we need to take off. I believe that should also be a 12 millimeter. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to take that off now, and then we should be able to slide the starter out the same way I'm pulling the camera, right through here. So we're gonna do that now. All right, so from this angle, I was able to reach down in there with my ratchet and socket. Mine actually ended up being a 13, and here's the nut for it. And then you just slide the cable off. And now we should be able to reach down in here, wiggle it a little bit maybe, and then it should pull straight out of here, just like that. Starter removed. We'll go ahead and set it to the side. I also want to point out that if you do happen to have the bracket that's supposed to be in here, you can barely see them, but those two holes in the block right there are, I believe, are what the bracket screws into. And then I think the other ones, I don't know if you'll be able to see them or not, but they should be on the intake somewhere. And so those can be a pain to remove, and I'm pretty sure that they put a wiring harness connection on it as well, where it's got one of those little Christmas tree connectors. So yours may not be quite as stress-free as this one if you do have the bracket in there. However, it's definitely not the end of the world, and it can be done. You just got to be patient with it and keep moving. So now we're going to go ahead and put the new starter in the vehicle. All right, so I'm going to go through the installation process a little faster because it basically is just the reverse of removal. So you can see the starter in there. I got it, electrical connector installed, battery terminal connector installed, and then we got the two bolts in hand tight. You just have to kind of flip it back around and put it up in there where the solenoid, you can see how it's on top. So you want the solenoid to be going into the starter like that. If you have the solenoid out on the left side of the starter from this view, you're going to have a hard time turning it in. So try to put it in where the solenoid just goes up under the intake, and that'll give you a lot easier time putting this back together. So now we need to put the throttle body back on and everything else that we took off in order to get access to the starter. It is recommended to replace the gasket here behind the throttle body while it's off. And this one was kind of dirty. It's not a bad idea to go ahead and clean up your throttle body a little bit at this time. So now we're going to go ahead and put those 4 bolts back in and plug in the connector. Now we got the throttle body reinstalled, and the starter bolts are tightened up. So now we want to take this intake duct, go ahead and put it back onto the throttle body and the air cleaner box, as well as putting that hose back on and the clamp. All right, so we got the duct back on, both clamps tightened up, hose back on with the clamp in place. Then I went ahead and put the battery in place as well, and the hold down. I just have to tighten them up, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And once you got your battery installed, you just need to put this air duct back in and tighten the two 10mm bolts. That's going to be the end of the video for today, guys. Hope you all learned something. If so, please leave a like below. Otherwise, if you are in the middle of this job and you are having any troubles that were not listed in the video, leave a comment below and I will get to it as soon as I can and try to help you out if I can. Otherwise, if you have not already, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit 3,000 subscribers by the end of 2024. And otherwise, I will see you next time.